get.
You see that, Brandy? I got it recorded.
Good job.
Very good. I'm showing 6 o'clock. Got a lot of things hopping around on my screen, but as long as we got so Rachel, you want to give me a thumbs up? Can you hear me when we're good?
Yep, we're good. Can you guys see the agenda on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I just can't see everybody at one time, so I'm going to keep hopping around once we get to discussions and things. So call the meeting to order. This is the Monday, December 9th, the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and it is 6:01. Now, so the meeting is called to order. We have 7 people. Lisa is absent. And I guess I'll throw a bit of a Brian, do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, I was on mute. I'll leave that up to you.
Go ahead, Izzy.
All right. All right, you ready, Brian?
You want to start, Brian?
I'm waiting for one of you two to start.
Oh, I was offering it to you.
All right.
I'll start it. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag of the United
United
States
States of
of
America,
America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
It's an awkward thing for a Pledge of Allegiance on Zoom.
Yes. But thank you for that. And our next agenda item is approval of the minutes. And in front of us, we've got the November 11th. Is there any discussion or anybody willing to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Jim, to approve the minutes from November 11th, 2024.
I'll second.
Thank you, Shannon. And sorry, I didn't quite catch who was the second.
Mike.
Mike. Thank you, Mike. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any or seeing any. I have one item to bring up myself. In the minutes, sorry, I don't have it quite in front of me, but it talks about we're giving Quick Trip the option to match colors. And that was specifically when we were talking about the refrigeration unit. Giving the developer the option to match colors of unit to blend with the building. I guess I felt like we asked them to match the colors rather than giving them the option. Could somebody check the minutes, or am I remembering wrong?
Jim, this is Colleen.
Yeah.
I was the one who initially said option, and then after somebody else's comment, we did decide that no, it should be that way. So option should be removed and that they would match the color to the building.
Okay. Thank you. So that seems to match my memory. And the motion was made by Shannon and Mike. Would you accept that as a friendly to change that sentence?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you, Shannon and Mike. Any other discussion or points to bring up?
Good catch, Jim.
Thank you. So I'll ask if everybody's in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 7-0. And we are on to appearances before the commission. And I know there's a number of people on that I don't know of. I guess I'll maybe lean more on Brandy or Rachel. I'm assuming everybody on is somebody wishing to speak under an item.
That is correct. Everybody that's located on Zoom has an agenda item on the P&Z agenda tonight.
Okay. Thank you for that. So we will move to item 5.1, concept presentation by Classic Homes or Classic Custom Homes for a proposed phase 2 development of Riverstone Townhomes on a parcel denoted on the agenda in Conservancy Place. Brandy, are you going to kick this off, or is Brian or somebody else here to talk?
Yeah, I can go ahead and just kick it off real quick. I did put just a little brief staff memo in the packet just to kind of give you a heads up of what we were looking for this evening. Brian Sipple from Classic Custom Homes is on Zoom tonight, as well as I believe Roxanne, who is the engineer for Brian's projects. There's going to be 2 different items tonight, 5.1 and 5.2. Brian will be here to kind of just give us a brief overview of his concept thoughts for both projects. So we'll kick off the first one with the Riverstone Townhomes. As you're aware, this is a project that is currently under construction, almost completed, out in Conservancy for the.
No,
Sorry.
Randy, don't mean to interrupt, but the Riverstone project is fairly new. It has just started. There's 2 buildings in so
2
far.
buildings there. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're thinking the one across the street is.
Yes, I am.
A lot further along. So, yeah.
Brian has too many projects in the village that I try to keep track of it all. So this is the phase currently under construction for the Riverstone Townhomes. So Brian's going to be presenting a quick concept tonight for phase 2 of that same project on this corner parcel right here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brian. And if you want to direct me anywhere on the concept map or anything like that, Brian, feel free to go right ahead and do that.
That's great. Thank you, guys. So building in order to the far right is building 1, 2, and they're kind of in order. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 have been approved already presently in one building. 1 and 2 are being constructed. All the roads, all the infrastructure is completed for this project. It's just new, just started. And when you saw the parcel prior to this, they're actually in subdivision plats. So actually each building is on its own lot. That's why you see all those squares there. So there's 8 new buildings and 8 new lots. And the new project, or the extension of the project, there's a corner that we parceled out, and I've been talking back and forth with the Rings, and and I let the village do due diligence. They were hoping maybe that somebody would come in on the corner. I just think to complete this corner, we're gonna, I wanted to put 4 additional 4 units, but as you can see, I've got 3 4 units and 1 3 unit due to the arc that we had to put on the new Bellflower Road to make the intersection align with River Road. They like the roads to dead end parallel, not at a kink. So it made that lot a little challenging on the end, but we're going to do some a berm and some landscaping and stay out of the vision triangles. You can see the little triangles that we've already put in place. That will be the vision triangles, will stay behind that because the rear yards of those last two buildings will be facing River Road. And then we'll connect to the storm. Roxanne's working through a little bit of the stormwater management, but this should be a fairly easy project. Like I said, all the infrastructure is in phase one already. So the first 8 buildings, the water, the sewer, roads are all in. I've completed the final coat on Bellflower Drive. The main road is already done and completed. The only thing left there is the street trees, which we'll do in spring. Across the street from this project is Bellflower Point. It's a 2-unit condominium project, which Brandy was referring to. Is it's not quite done, but it's quite a bit further than this one. So there's probably, I think, 7 more buildings to complete over there. I predict that'll be done summer of 25. I can't tell you how this project will go because it's new, but I hope it goes well because it's just started and underway. So if anybody's got any questions, the project will be exactly like what's been approved. It'll just be an additional 4 buildings.
Thank you, Brian. I guess I wanted to clarify something because you said that it's relatively new. Could you remind me or the commission how similar are these proposed buildings compared to the ones that were, say, that were existing as of a few years ago, the right on Bellflower, the townhomes there?
The buildings that I just completed, it would be to the east of these, which were 6-unit buildings. I completed, I think there's 4 6-units and 2 7-unit buildings. Those have no rear yard, so to speak. They have a road presence on Bellflower, parking lot to the rear. They kind of have a front door, front and rear, with kind of some green common space in the middle. These buildings here are going to be back to back, and they're going to have screened-in porches, decks. Brandy, if you flip down a little bit you got the back of the buildings right there. Okay. So these actually, every building has a screened-in porch and it's going to have a grill deck on the back, which I'm just finding out I'm using the word grill deck all the time. And I'm being told that the village ordinance is 10 feet from any structure on a grill deck. So now I have to I think I'm going to be making my decks bigger so I can meet that 10 foot. So, but these are going to be, I think about half of these buildings, Jim, are half exposure and about half are full exposure. So this building that she's presently got up has got no walkout, but then half of them have walkout. They'll all be back to back with rear yards. And the ones that don't have a walkout will have steps off the decks to let the people back to their backyard from the back of the house. The ones with full exposure won't have steps off the decks. So the difference is, to answer your question, is they're 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, fireplace, 2-stall garages. These are larger than the ones previous. Plus they have screened-in porches, plus they have decks.
Okay, well, thank you. So quite a bit or substantially different, so thank you.
And they all have rear yards for the kids to play in. I kind of trying to come up with behind of every unit will have rear yards for them to utilize. The only 2 buildings that don't are the first 2 buildings, and they don't have as large. Building 1 and 2 bump the buildings that we did to the east there, but there's still a pretty nice backyard in between us there. I think we have 25 feet, maybe 30 back there. So it's not abnormal for a backyard of a house.
One of the things that I wanted to add really quick is we did have discussions about these units here that back up to River Road, about doing some berming and landscaping. Brian brought up the point of headlights and things like that coming into people's places. So he will be enhancing some landscaping along here to kind of assist with, keeping lights and stuff out of the windows coming up and down Windsor Road.
Windsor Road is the tour that I'd like. I think River Road's fine, as long as you guys turn your ball diamond lights off by 9 a.m. I'm just kidding. So, but I think nice and close to the park. I think this will be it just fitting to finish out that corner.
Yeah, I guess, sorry, I'll continue with my comments. I thought of those as actually a pretty highly desirable lots, even with the streets there. I think they're going to have a nice view. So I know that's something you'll take into account too when you do your landscaping. So
I agree. River Road, after rush hour 5 o'clock and in the morning is not that busy.
mm-hmm. Okay. Commissioners, is there anybody comments or any discussion?
This is Mike. I think it looks quite nice, actually. It's a nice continuation as to what was started a year ago.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Anybody else wishing to offer a comment? Hearing none, I'll say we're done with the 5.1. I'll get back to the agenda.
Jim, I just want to throw out there that you should be looking at the timeline we're working with Brian right now on is for submittals for this to be at the January P&Z meeting if everything lines up with the submittals from the staff review end. So
we've actually, I think, Brian, you're going to have everything submitted. I think the deadline is this week, Thursday. And I just got the plans. I got back late this afternoon. I got the plans on my desk. It looks like Roxanne's done. Obviously, like always, we have to go through the stormwater stuff, but approval can be contingent on that. But I think that we are, we can go right from concept to, to submittal this week, actually. Unless somebody here tonight tells me they'd like to see something different, and I can try. But everything's all the same. It's all cement board siding. It's all high-end finishes on the outside, and I think the color palette, Brandy, I think you had, for some reason, that doesn't look like the kind of odd color of the siding on that, the way that the computer programs work, and I think it's more of a lighter gray actually. But anyway, we've one building's already being sided as we speak. It's good looking. So.
Okay. Well, thank you. So item 5.2 is a concept presentation by, again, Classic Custom Homes for a proposed condo development, Hidden Valley, located on a parcel noted on the agenda on River Road in Conservancy Place. Listen, Brandy, you want to start the conversation again?
Yeah, so what we're looking at here, Brian's going to present a concept for condo development on this site right here. I'll bring that up here in just a minute. We as staff have had a couple of meetings with Brian kind of going over some items and just layouts and things of that, but I think I'll just turn it over to Brian to start the ball rolling as per that concept.
So this, guys, is right across from the daycare down on River Road. It would be just north of the new what is it called, the Gulf Pin Seekers. So just north of Pin Seekers and right across from the daycare. I think one of our driveways, if you go to the plan that Roxanne's got the I think we actually show the driveway right there. So what we've done in concept here, everybody, is it's a really goofy shaped lot, as you can see. And obviously the wooded area to the south would be that side there. Is going to kind of be in the trees. Greg Hall had a good idea of putting, as we're going to remove some trees to build, would you put some trees back in? And I said, well, we got all kinds of trees, but he made a comment about putting trees behind the northern side rear around those rearing ponds, which is a great idea. Down a little bit, Brandy, right in there, and then around the corner, right where you can kind of see the green behind that pond. Yep. And so because that's all open cornfield there, and then we have them rearing ponds in our backyard, which is we tee up. Don't know if this is a negative or a positive. We right there, because I'm going to have a lot of explanations to do what they are and what were they for and all of the above. And so you can kind of see how our lot kind of adjoins there. And obviously the trees and the creek and everything are going to be the attractive part of this. So we want to take, just what's needed and leave what we can, because obviously that's going to be the retail value of this very expensive piece of land too, by the way. So it's, and to get the numbers to work, I don't really have enough density in here. I really need more, and I can't get any more. And then I talked to Judd and Greg a little bit, and they asked what I thought about putting a parking structure in for the village, so then they could now just head right straight east, Brandy. Okay, so they want to come right kind of straight down through the land, and then there's like a park structure, not too far in, Brandy, up a little bit, right up a little bit right in there. So, and they wanted like a lookout tower that's already there, that they want to make a path to that right away, but then potentially connect the path. It would be all the way around, followed around the rearing ponds, Brandy. Yeah, and then you'd have to go back to the other map. But so what they want to do is follow kind of the lot line, Brandy, next to the rearing ponds. No, yep, okay, follow that. I'll keep following that. I'll follow that. Okay, the trail system. Whoop, you went a little too far. The trail system somewhere right in there that they could connect somewhere. Your existing trail system is somewhere up in that area. Now, I said, sure. I said, we could probably do something like that. We're still working through some kinks because the extra driveway on River Road, but we were on the phone with Mark. We think we've got a plan to make that work. And I don't think I have a problem. What I would do is we got to figure this all out, but we would dedicate that portion of that land there to the village. And then we would have to dedicate an easement through our lot to get to you guys, to get to your land, which is right there. I mean, right there is where you guys own, right there, Brandy, is where you guys own from there on. So it's not that big of a deal. And I think it might be an asset to my buyers, because if that connects to the trail system, I think that my condo buyers would eventually like to use it. So it might be a win-win. You can see Roxanne through a lot of stormwater ponds. We were in discussion. I'm going through wetland delineation right now to see if there's any change or deviation of any of that, because man, this is a goofy lot. And with the wetland delineation, it makes it super challenging. But some of this I think is really attractive, and some of it I don't think is very attractive. The stuff to the far north, I mean, you're looking right at that old farm. I mean, that's I guess, to the eyes of the beholder and the risk taker you're talking to here. I don't know. But anyway, we just want to see what we've kind of had a couple meetings with the Veerbrecher, Roffers, Brandy, Greg and Judd, and now we just want to see what you guys think.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody wishing to start the conversation?
This is Mike. Brian, you know that particularly the northern part is fairly close to what I think is some barns, but I have really no idea how ABS operates these days. Are there any odors or kind of goofy farm things that go on there that would impact condo
We-
owners?
We don't think that the farm is being used that much. I have got to call into that I think they're still using the farm, but I mean it's just a farm. I mean we're going to be away from the buildings. We're closer to actually the farmhouse that sits out front. And the barns are behind us. I was more worried about them rearing ponds because I think it was the runoff from the barns. Nobody really knows, but the weird thing is they stay really clear, they look really good, and I don't know. I mean, would they?
Well, what I can say is that I do know, as of right now, ABS is not keeping any livestock in these buildings. They've moved all of their livestock to the buildings up north to their facility. And so right now it's just for storage of equipment and things of that sort. What that means for the future is certainly unknown.
I think ABS, from animals and using this facility over there are not like it used to be. I think they're just kind of trapped in a little hunk of ground there. They can't go anywhere anymore. So I mean, they have their headquarters to where they still have some animals there, right, Brandy?
They have a few bulls there, I believe,
And
but
that's
I'm not 100%.
that's very close to the new apartment that was built there, and I think it's okay. I mean, I don't think it's bad, but I don't know. You guys might know better with complaints.
Yeah, I've never received any complaints about the odors.
Brian, the ponds was going to be my second question, and I can tell you, I know years ago, a friend of mine would fish that and get a lot of bullheads, and he thought they were in, really nice fishing ponds. This particular person, now what they were used for and whatnot, I have no idea, but at least in the eyes of that particular fisherman, there were edible fish in there.
Well, and I said to Brandy and I said to Craig and Greg and nobody, you hear stories, right? So you don't know, some are good stories, some are bad stories, and so some we don't like to repeat stories. So I said to Brandy, I said, they could be really nice ice skating ponds for my customers, but I don't know, what the plan is, if there is a plan, which I doubt there is one. I mean, I would assume they're there to stay unless they would drain them somehow, but I don't know. And we don't think stormwater. Well, I don't know. Craig thought maybe that the stormwater from up above, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's all stuff that we're still kind of working through the details on to figure out. So
I have a contact that was a middle manager at ABS that I might make a phone call to and just see what I can glean from her. She lives not very far from there, actually. She's retired. She has been retired for some years, but at least I could get a little history if that's of any interest to anybody.
Yeah, I would be actually, if you could share that with me, that'd be great, because I'm, darn well that I'm going to get asked. And, I said to Craig, and I don't know if Judd or whoever I was talking to, I said, well, what I would be worried about if they ever breached, would I have problems? And those guys said, they don't see that being an issue. So
I've never heard anything negative about those ponds there. So, I mean, that's just what I've heard after, being here in the community for, well, since '86 anyway.
Well, see, and that's what I was worried about, Michael, was more stagnant, stinky pond. I mean, what is it? Is that going to be a problem? And it's not all full of algae. It's actually kind of, I don't know, but
yeah.
I mean, anytime you don't have somebody right in your backyard, I think it's a positive. Um, so having open space, being able to see, I think, as a homeowner, they would prefer that.
I will give her a call, and if she has information, I guess what I'll do is I'll share it with you, Brandy, and if everybody's okay, I could arrange a conference call or a little get together with her or whatever you all want to do.
Yeah, that would be great, Mike.
Yeah. My suggestion, like you already said, is just to coordinate with Randy and she can disseminate the information to everybody.
Very good.
Anything else, Mike?
No.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
Jim, I was just going to mention, I like the idea of connecting it with the rest of the trail. I think that's beneficial in an overall perspective. I know it's good for his owners there, but I also think it's good for the rest of the community, that neighborhood behind and such, just to be able to connect it all.
Mm-hmm.
Could you make sure if I dedicate and put that parking lot in, you'll connect that trail right away?
If you pay for it.
Yeah, if I pay for it, that's what I asked Judd too, and he said, "Are you going to pay for it?" I said, "Oh, that's funny, Judd." So, yeah, because I think all in all, that would be good for all. I would agree with you. I mean, I would totally agree.
Shannon, are you done or anything else?
I am done.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess I'll jump on that too, because I was pretty ecstatic to see that you did that, or that you have that in the concept, because I too agree with Shannon. I think that'd be a huge asset for the community to get that trail connected. I know I have mentioned, or Judd and I have talked in the past, and just we know it's going to be a pretty expensive trail, because I think it's going to be boardwalk over quite a bit of it. So
You're right. Yep.
That will be the tricky part, but there's other funding sources out there. So hopefully that won't be all on you, Brian.
Well, we actually talked a little bit. We actually talked, Jim, a little bit about the whole that goofy parcel there to the south. Judd says, "Boy, we'd sure like that in the village." And I told him what the cost is of those two little hunks of land there. And he that was kind of the subject, was he couldn't believe what I mean. It's just where we are in today's world with numbers. So. But yeah, so I didn't even realize that you guys had it. I think you got some sort of an outlook tower back there, and I think early on we're going to try to work together and get a trail to that, so that way you can park and they can at least get all of the public can get to that. I think that's an immediate thing that we would do.
Yeah, and like you said, I think that'd be a nice draw for your condominium. And
Yeah.
I guess to continue my opinion, I really like the layout. I think it works very well for the southern portion. I was personally hoping for a higher density on the northern portion, but I can see the complications it is with using your building.
Well, Roxanne's on here. Maybe we can get her to get more buildings in there, because I'm all for that, Jim. So,
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, but again, I do very much appreciate that trail connection. I think that's going to be pretty huge. And I think I'm not one, so I can't necessarily promise, but I can promise when that happens, I will ask to get that on the comprehensive plan, or the courts to show that connection, because I know I've been the proponent for trail connections, and it's rather difficult on, say, south of the river there too. So if we can get the connection on the north, I think that's pretty awesome. So,
well, we'll make sure to, like I said, we're in early stages of it, but my plan would be, if everything aligns, because like Brandy had said, we're built out on Bellflower. We're not quite, but I mean the middle of I would say 2025, we would potentially start this the summer of 2025, complete down below or up above, whichever, to the south, and come down. We haven't decided would we do the northern or the southern part of this first, but we would probably do this in 2 phases. And we need a tremendous amount of fill down here, guys. So that's why I'm really looking at this, because I need to start moving fill here from my other site, like soon. If we're going to do this, we need to start placing, at least stockpiling it down here, because these roads all got to come up about 5-6 feet down here.
Well, I
So-
think it's good to know that we can plan for that. So, Brandy, you're saying something?
Yeah, so I was just gonna kind of try to wrap it all up here. Basically, I think what Brian is looking for before he moves forward with anything is just a, general thumbs up, thumbs down, on this particular project. So that way he has, a little bit of confidence moving forward with purchasing the land and doing everything that he needs to do. So.
I would say my opinion is a pretty high thumbs up. Again, I was hoping for a higher density on the north part, but I love the trail connection, and I think the layout in the southern portion is really good.
This is Mike.
Shannon and I heard positive, and Mike, I know you had concerns, but are you a thumbs up or not?
Yes, I think everything I've heard, pending, if we can get some more information, but I agree with everything you just said, Jim.
Mm-hmm. Any other commissioners want to share their opinion?
This is Colleen. I'm in. I like it.
This is Jean. I think it looks very attractive too. It looks very appealing.
Yeah, I'd agree. Nice use of the space.
Same from Doug, thumbs up.
Thank you all.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Now I feel a little bit more confident in continuing my journey ahead with stormwater and costs and stuff. So we'll keep working with the village, and I appreciate everybody's time tonight.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Next item is item 6.1. It's discussion and recommendation on an acceptance of a deed for Outlot 1 CSM 14582 on Peterson Crossing Boulevard. So it gets owned by Norsky Dane / Covered Bridge Holdings LLC. Brandy, do you have discussion to start?
Yeah, so I'll just do a quick overview of the staff report that was included in your packet. So just to kind of give you a idea of where things are at. So Peterson Crossing, Timothy Court, this is a child care center. The Covered Bridge apartments that were just recently built are right here behind that. Churchill condos here to the south, and then Ziggy Field right across the street. When this area was platted out here, these lots, this lot here was intended for a commercial type use. And then this lot here was set as an outlot for the area. That outlot was dedicated to the village, but there were some restrictions on the outlot that it could only be used for stormwater management and environmental corridor. What is happening is now that there is some commercial aspects coming through for this area out here, they're looking for a driveway access that would come right across this outlot. With the current restrictions that are on there for stormwater environmental corridor only, it is not possible to put that driveway where it's located. So what's being proposed is that this outlot is actually going to be deeded to the village. And then as part of that deed, that restriction will be lifted to allow for a driveway to cross over here to access the commercial component of the parcel. So what's being asked of the Planning and Zoning Commission is to make a recommendation to the village board to accept the deed that would dedicate this outlot to the village, which would then remove those restrictions and allow for an access driveway to cross over this site. Happy to answer any questions. And we do have representatives from T-Wall here as well, if there's any additional information needed. Otherwise, looking for a recommendation.
Brandy, this is Mike. Is there anything that staff has determined to be a negative to the village in this regard?
Not necessarily. I think with having this dedicated to the village as a whole for the current stormwater purposes is what the village prefers. As far as maintenance of stormwater systems and things of that sort, being able to lift the environmental corridor restriction and keeping that stormwater aspect, I still think is a benefit. And then the benefit of being able to have the access to this business here would allow for the proper circulation on the site for that commercial use.
Thank you.
Brandy, can you talk about, this is Alex, can you talk about next steps in terms of potentially reviewing a CSM at some point as well?
I cannot, Alex.
Oh, okay. Is Nick on? From T-Wall?
I believe he is.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know all of the details of the exact process for the CSM that's to come. So maybe Nick would be able to distinguish that a little bit better for me.
Yeah, so as I understand it, once the deed is approved, then we would submit a CSM separating that outlot into two lots. One being the lot that we would use for the driveway, and the other lot would remain as an outlot for an environmental corridor. And we intend to submit that probably for the next coming meeting in January.
Okay, that's helpful. I was just curious on timing.
Thank you.
So, Jim and commissioners, you'd be reviewing that CSM when that comes forward.
Yep. And Brandy, could you scroll up a little bit? One thing I want to make clear to commissioners, and so I'll say in the know more when this was all laid out too, but there is the limits or the boundary of DeForest, the village of DeForest and the village of Windsor. So that is also a reason why that outlot was created that way. Because, say to me as a developer, helping the developer at the time, we probably would have combined some of the lots as far as for frontage, but we didn't want to combine across village boundaries because that would have just complicated the development review process. So that's why we've got such a, say, like a thin outlot there too. So do you know what I'm getting at there? I just want people to be aware why it wasn't, say, originally done in a more of a standard way. It's because of the village's boundaries.
See, this is Jean. Can I ask a question? Are you able to give me a better visual as to the lands to the north? Like, yeah. Okay, so it's that one right there. Can you drop down so how? Nope. Drop. Yeah. Okay. All right. I just wanted to see the proximity to Windsor Road.
Mm-hmm. And what we would be looking at is for that driveway access, it would be
Could be directly across.
Yeah, it would be across from here. And the driveway would be a right out only because this turn here does not allow for left turn from this side. So
Okay.
this driveway that would come across would only be turning right onto Peterson Crossing.
And how will that prohibit people from trying to turn left? Is there a curb?
Located here, there's not really high curb. It's more street level curb because we have a lot of the prairie grass
Okay.
throughout here. But bringing that driveway across, it would be a challenge to try to turn left, but there will be signage as well.
All right. Thank you for showing me that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So any further discussion, or maybe Brandy, could you go to the recommendation?
I have it right
Yeah,
here.
staff.
Jim, I'll make a motion that planning and zoning recommend the approval of the deed from Norski Dane to the village board.
Thank you, Colleen. Is there a second?
I'll second again, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. So thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Nick, for being available for questions.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Item 6.2 is discussion and action on amendments to the site plan and building plans for DeForest Yards Community Building / multifamily site at 6240 and 6250 Monticello Drive. Brandy, I'm guessing it's you, or kick off?
Yeah. So I'm pitch hitting for Mark. So if I don't cover everything, Alex, feel free to jump in if I miss something. But in the fall of 23, P&Z approved a amended PUD for the final development plan for Savannah Brooks for DeForest Yards, which is currently under construction with some multifamily aspects, commercial aspects, and the ice arena out there. And then in September of 24, there were some significant changes made to that final development plan, Youngblood brewery plans, which the commission also positively supported for that. Basically, I'm going to try to run over everything. The staff report Mark provided was pretty thorough. But this amendment for the DeForest Yards community building site, which would include the pool area, the parking area, and this multi-unit building here, they increased the size significantly of the community buildings for this project. Everything remains in line with the FDP as far as elevations, the majority of the layout, things like that. However, the size of the community building has been proposed to change to be expanded to 8,700 square feet rather than the smaller size that they had initially proposed. The reason for the expansion to the floor areas to allow for a larger community room, a golf simulator, exercise facility, locker rooms, and then some other amenities to go along with that community building. Nothing about the pool, the operating hours, things like that are changing at all. The They did revise the building design to have more characteristics of the residential building that's there, so they kind of mesh with the design. There's not any real noticeable changes to the multifamily building itself here, other than a highly enhanced landscape plan. And so they have added enough landscaping in to double the amount of points that would normally be required. So they're really increasing the landscaping on the site. They also improved some of the pedestrian connections to the east and the west, added some bike parking, additional parking, and then the lighting plans that they submitted with this for the expansion do meet all of the village zoning ordinances. So basically, it's just mostly the layout of the building and the addition to the square footage on the building that they're looking for an amendment for. So this would be the building elevations for the community room. It does have some matching qualities to the current multifamily that's being developed. And so what we're looking for from the commission is a recommendation to approve a revised site plan and building plans for Lot 5 with the conditions as they were listed in the staff report.
Thank you, Brandy. And could I ask you to actually scroll down again? I would say when I was viewing, there's some confusion I had, because if you see, this is actually what we approved as a commission in December of 23.
Mm-hmm.
If we scroll farther down, like you've already reported, it's not, I'll say, substantially different. I mean, I guess it is substantially different, but it's somewhat unrecognizable to the lay person as far as the layout, at least.
So this would be Lot 5.
Mm-hmm.
This is the revised plan.
Yep, and there's the revised layout with the larger
revised layout of the building with the pool.
Randy, is the pool reconfigured?
Farther, there's the rendering too is a little bit different than previously.
Yeah, I'll just note that we have Luke, Claudia, and I think Greg from the development team here as well. If there's any questions on changes in site plan too, I'm sure they could probably speak to that as well.
Yeah, if I could just jump in really quick, Brandy. The initial drawings you were showing at the beginning there were what was originally approved. And then further down here, you'll get to actually some exterior elevations and floor plans for what was revised. So there's quite a few civil drawings in this submittal. So a little bit further.
It's almost the last page.
I'm trying to get my computer to keep up with me. So
yeah, for your information.
Yeah, this is Luke here. I'll just jump in here. Probably really what we did here is when we came in December, we were obviously up against a timeline trying to get that 91 unit going. And me and Alex and Bill and Mark Roffers all along said, hey, let's just put a placeholder in there. We got to have something. Let's whip it together. And so we did, just you had something. And then as we got into developing the site plan and, you know, where it functioned and as everything else came together, this is what we're coming back with, saying this is kind of what we want to build. The other stuff was really more of like, hey, we've got to give you something so you have a general idea. If we go way back, this Lot 5 was kind of an empty space where we had nothing when we did the zoning. Where, okay, well, we know it's going to be this now, so let's just put a placeholder of like it's a community building with a pool without detailed drawings or plans. So today, really, we looked at it with Mark and Alex and Bill when we brought it back in. So, all right, this is the building that we think fits the neighborhood and the character and blends in well, and this is what ended up being kind of the best. The exterior kind of a little bit of function of that floor plan of what we wanted to do from an amenity space. Also, so that's kind of how we ended up here away from, that first iteration that you guys saw.
Thank you, Luke. And could I ask if you could please state your address for the record too?
Yep. 3 Cambridge Road, Madison, Wisconsin, 53704.
Thank you. And was that Greg held that talk before? Could you
from
state
KBA.
your address?
Sure. 5860 County Highway F, Mazomanie, Wisconsin.
Thank you very much. Any commissioners wish to comment or have continued discussion?
This is Mike. Again, I think it's enhanced from what it was. I like the additional services in the building and the detail provided. I'm for it.
Thank you, Mike. Any other commissioners discussion, or we are looking for an action on those?
Jim, this is Colleen. I think it looks great. And I think Luke's been doing a heck of a job down there. So I'm all for it. And I lost it on my agenda here. Is this a recommendation to the village board?
No.
This is a motion to approve the change.
I believe so. I guess I'm going to try to scroll to up. Is that it, Brandy?
Yep.
Okay. Colleen, I think you were making a motion. Is that true? Do you want to?
I will make the motion, whichever is appropriate. Is it for us to recommend?
No, you're making the motion to approve or deny the amendment.
Change?
Yeah.
Well, I would make a motion to approve the amendment.
Okay. And in the packet and on the screen, there's, I think it was 4 conditions by staff that we're recommending. So is your recommendation the same thing, Colleen?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
This is Doug. I will second that.
Thank you, Doug. Brandy, can you check to make sure there wasn't a 5th going on the next page or something? Because I just mentioned 4. Okay, perfect. So the highlighted text is the recommendation for approval from Colleen and Doug. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you all.
Yep, again, thank you very much, Luke. Good luck. Back to my agenda. So I'm going to be opening a public hearing for a special exception to enable an on-building sign in excess of normally allowed square footage for land in the M2 General Industrial District located at 4970 Cake Parkway, parcel 242-7010-1. And I'll be opening that public hearing at 6:59. Brandy, did you want to start discussion on this?
Sure. So we have received a special exception application for signage. The special exception applications, as you'll recall, give opportunities to business owners to request for signage that is outside of the normal village standards with the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we have Jesse from Skid Loaders on with us tonight, along with Monica, there you are. I was looking through the
Yeah.
through the Brady Bunch screen. Monica here is the representative from the sign company. So the recommendation as listed in your packet is for, let me get to the rendering real quick, just so we can visualize. Are for on-building signs that exceed the normal standard for on-building signs within the industrial district. So just to give you a quick visual of the building real quick and the signage proposed on there, this would be the western side of the building, which faces Cake Parkway, the interior portion of the Vienna Business Park. This would be the east side of the building that would be facing the interstate. Go back up here. In the staff report, I did kind of break down here what the requirements are for on-building signage and what they are permitted to have. In those exhibits that I just showed you, they do have 2 signs proposed for the building. I just want to give you a visual of the location of the building from the interstate. So give me just 1 second to get there on the map. So Skid Loader's Bus, they're currently building, they're building here on this particular site. The building location is about right here on the site. Might be off just a smidge. But they do also have this large stormwater retention area that's located behind them. So when we're looking at the distance from the interstate and the size of the building, we can definitely see support for the larger sign for visual purposes from the highway. I did also state in the staff report that staff does not support the excessive size for the sign on the western side of the building. And that is just mostly because granting that exception here does set precedents for other businesses that are coming to the area, right? And so we want to make sure that all of the stuff that's happening internally in the business park doesn't just become large sign on all of the buildings throughout here. So staff supports the excessive, or the larger sign on the eastern side of the building. But the western side of the building, we think that the size that's allotted by ordinance standards should be sufficient enough to advertise internally here. The other suggestion that I would be making on this is because the sign is larger on the eastern side of the building, we would want to restrict the freestanding signs out here because the size of the signage should be sufficient enough for a visual from the interstate. We would, consider permitting by right a freestanding sign if they wanted to in the future put one here on the western portion of their lot. But we would request that be limited to what is normally allowed. So let me back up. Industrial sites are allowed 2 freestanding signs. The first one can be up to 45 feet, being in relation to proximity to the interstate. The second sign, freestanding sign, the maximum that would be allotted would be for 20-foot sign. But given the size of the sign on the eastern side of the building, again, we're looking to restrict a large 45-foot freestanding sign from the eastern side and limit a future freestanding sign to 20 feet on the Cake Parkway side of the business. But that is the staff recommendation. You guys certainly have the purview to approve what you feel is sufficient for that. The other thing that we're looking at is there was a lighting plan that was provided as was attached in your packet. That lighting plan itself has all of the lights pointing upward, which is not permitted by village ordinance. All the lights for the signage need to be pointed downward. So one of the conditions of approval is that they would need to supply a new lighting plan that had the lights pointing down rather than pointing up. As part of the freestanding sign portion of this, the village would look to have this lot deed restricted, which would mean Jesse would just need to have his attorney draft up a deed restriction stating that they couldn't put a freestanding sign on the eastern side of the lot, but could have that 20-foot freestanding sign on this side of the lot if they wanted to. That would need to be done before the sign permit would be issued, if the Planning and Zoning Commission chose to support the staff recommendation. So I'm going to leave it at that right now for the public hearing.
Thank you, Brandy.
Hi, it's Monica.
Anybody?
Can I speak?
Yep, so we're in the public hearing, so if I could ask you to state your name and address for the record. And then we'll...
It's Monica Schneider. SCHNEIDER.
And address, please.
Sure. N5528 Miranda Way, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, 54937.
And Monica, could you just state the name of the company?
Sure. Signorama.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Monica. And I will just mention before you start, this is the public hearing, so this is your time to talk. We generally limit time, but I'm not going to be concerned about that too much right now.
Okay.
But there will be an agenda item after the public hearing where there'll be an opportunity for commissioners to ask you questions too.
Sure. So before the meeting, Jesse and I talked, and we would like to revise the signage over the main entrance door to follow code, to be able to allow us to do a pylon sign on the highway, freeway side, because we feel that that's more important for the future of the business. So we'd just like to note that we don't want to close the door on a freeway pylon sign. So we would, in exchange, reduce the signage on the main entrance side to follow code, to be able to allow us to keep that allowance for a pylon sign in the future.
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about during the public hearing?
And I'm sure that they would have no issues with the lighting. Jesse, do you agree with that?
Yeah, there's no problem. I don't know, do I have to speak my name and address right away? Okay.
That would be nice.
I'm Jesse Lawyer, owner of Steelers Plus. Address is N7661 Mountain Line Road, and that is Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, 54937.
Thank you very much.
And I just wanted to state on that here, you know, the big thing here is I guess I really don't want to close the door to, you know, what the future may bring here, as, you know, this location here, we will be doing rentals and obviously new equipment sales. And it could be, you know, more and more to make sure that we, you know, maintain profitability, right? The biggest thing here is similar to like what Truck Country does, which is basically my neighbor in a way. You know, Truck Country doesn't specifically sell or name out the brand they carry. And if you look at their standing sign here, it says Freightliner on it, so that any person driving past correlates Freightliner with Truck Country. Same mindset for Skid Loaders Plus. Skid Loaders Plus doesn't specifically spell out like hat or beer or anything like that. And that's where a freestanding sign, you know, at this point, I'm not looking to add one at this very moment, but in the future, if I take on, for example, Gale or any other line, Skid Loaders Plus doesn't really spell that out in the name. So if there's a freestanding sign here, it'd be in regards to identifying what brand that I carry to the traffic that is passing on the highway, seeing how Skid Loaders Plus can be named and not identify the brand. So very, very similar to what Truck Country does, which is my neighbor. Truck Country doesn't spell out the brand straight line in the name.
Okay.
So, if there's any way that we could, allow that here and, I don't have any plans this year or anything, but in the future, as, I take on probably 2 lines, Sandwich, my main one, and then an additional one here to support, profitability in the location. That's where it would be good to let traffic know what brand that I carry at that specific location.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. I guess continue the non-standard. Are you, I'll say, at least content with what you spoke at the public hearing? And I can probably close that portion down. Monica, Jesse, you good for now?
Yeah.
Okay. I am good though, I think Monica, yes, I am good with the lighting, that's fine, that's, simple change here. Good with the reduction here on, the sign square footage here on the western facing sign. And in hopes here that we can, get approval on the, freestanding, that sign.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? I don't see anybody online. So I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:11 and move on to 6.4, which is discussion and action on the request for a special exception to enable an on-building sign in excess of normally allowed square footage for land in the M2 General Industrial District located at 4970 Cape Parkway, Purcell on the agenda. I guess, and I'm going to say lean on Brandy in light of the discussion that happened at the public hearing. Do you want to suggest changes to the staff recommendation?
Yeah, so I just, I guess I want a little bit of clarification. Monica, you stated that you guys would be willing to do the sign on the western side of the building at the size that meets code.
Correct.
But
yeah.
allowing for a larger sign on the eastern side of the building as requested in the 381 square feet, is that correct?
Correct.
And then you're asking us not to do a restriction on freestanding signs on the eastern side of the building to allow for the potential sign over here in the future, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to get some clarification on that because I think that with the reason the staff recommended doing that restriction is just because of the excessive size on the eastern side of the building. Understanding that there is a distance from the interstate, to be able to view that. The idea of a freestanding sign that matches or is similar to what Truck Country has there, they did receive a approval from the ETZ several years ago on that larger sign. And so just wanting to make sure that if the commission, whatever route the commission wants to go, the staff would support that, but just keeping in mind that we are also looking at the precedences for all of this site to develop out here with industrial. We just want to make sure that it just doesn't become like a sign alley kind of area, right? And being able to protect that in a way. but willing to go with whatever the commission would, you know, want to approve. We're flexible either way.
Thank you, Brandy. Is there anybody on the commission that wishes to start the conversation?
I would like to start it if I could. And
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, this is Jean. I was kind of having trouble hearing, so, you know, forgive me if I've missed something here. In regards to the larger sign on Cake Parkway that is beyond what is allowed in our ordinances, I would not support that because I want to avoid a Me Too, which will happen with subsequent developments down in that area. So all those vacant lots, folks are going to come back and they're going to say, hey, me too, I want this also. But it kind of sounds like that Monica made the statement that you guys would adhere to that sign size that fit the that went in the ordinance. Is that a correct statement?
On the cake
On Cake Parkway.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
now
that's
on the freeway side, you would not be able to read it because it would be too small to read from that far of a setback. So we are in a special exception. We're asking for a special exception because if we followed code, you wouldn't be able to read the letters from that far away from the highway.
Okay, what my concern in regards to that is when you made the statement about wanting then a pylon sign, has anyone approached WISDOT to get approval for any signage that is along the interstate?
We haven't because it's not been a signage that we've wanted to put in yet.
They may want to do a pylon in the future, so they want to be able to leave some options open for that, I think is the idea.
I'm concerned about the size of it. So not only will you have a sign on the side of the building, but you're looking to in the future possibly put a huge pylon sign that would identify the business and brands that you would service. Is that correct?
Right. This is more in regards to the brands that are offered by us, not specifically, you know, reselling, you know, Skid Loader Plus on there, more just to identify like Truck Country as being a Freightliner dealer. I would want a sign potentially in the future, not at this moment, that says Sanny and say Gale or something like that of the brand that I carry at that location. So not as large as what is on the building by any means, you know, just, you know, one that identifies the brand that I carry at Skid Loader Plus in application.
Do you have drawings of what would fall within code for the sign and then for what you're proposing as the larger one? Are you able to put those side by side? I guess because right now I'm not supportive in this area of having a larger sign.
You mean drawings of the on-building sign, Jean?
Yeah, from the view from the interstate, what that would look like.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that, but part of that is it was requested, but the building is currently being constructed, and at the time we put everything together for the packet, there just wasn't a building there for them to be able to kind of render it as the view.
Could I interrupt a minute just hearing that, Brandy? Because I've got on my side screen a view from the interstate, and it actually shows in Google, it shows the pole structure of the building. So it's pretty helpful to look at.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess those are my concerns right now, and I'll let any of the other commissioners talk.
Thank you, Jean.
So for example, the sales, service, and rentals is about 71 square feet. So your code allows 100 square feet. So you would have to fit all of the entire signage pretty close to what you have and where it says sales, service, rentals.
Can you repeat that, please?
So where it says sales, service, and rentals is 71 square feet. So the code allows 100 square feet. So if you can just visualize a little bit bigger, that's pretty much how big we would have to squish the entire sign down to.
And you would have to put skidloadersplus.com within that same framework.
And sales, service, and rentals. You'd have to squish that entire thing down into that area that says sales, service, and rentals.
So it would be one line and not two lines?
No, I'm saying we would have to take 2 lines of copy and squish it all the way down into that area that right now says sales, service, and rentals. That's about what the size that you guys allow us for the code.
Okay.
That's what your code allows, is about that much space. Kind of if you take in between those 2 windows and that one line, that's about as much space as we're allowed for your code. So we'd have to take that whole sign and squish it down to that little bit of area and look at it from about 500 feet away going 70 miles per hour. You're not going to read it. So that's why we're here asking. We wouldn't be asking if it wasn't a need. And this is a hardship for this customer. He paid a lot of money for this property and he's just trying to make a business that he's putting in successful. That's why we're here.
Hey, Monica, you probably do have to, there's a, distance formula based off a lot of size and speed that you're doing. So when you calculate the speed the traffic's going, the distance from traffic to building, it recommends a certain size letter so that it's visible for any traffic that is driving past. And that is what I want to try to get to, is the aspect here being legible from the highway, due to the advertising. That's the reason why the land is purchased, is to be by the highway to improve, awareness of Skidloader Plus and the brands that sell, in the area. Similar to like if you look at Reynolds Crane, that is directly behind us. They have a larger sign with, I think, larger letters than what that would be. And same with Truck Country, which is set back where it says Truck Country on their building, which is larger than the 100 square feet, because based off of what they have for data, for speed versus distance, it would have to be larger to be legible from the highway.
Thank you.
Jim, can I just make a clarification really quick?
Go ahead, Jean. Sorry, Brandy.
So I just wanted to clarify that as a staff, we're supportive of the larger on-wall sign on the east side of the building, simply because of the distance from the interstate, and the visual, like Monica said, that 100 square feet at 500 feet away, 70 miles an hour is going to be very difficult to read. It's the western wall that we felt was excessive, considering it was only basically advertising internally to the business park area. We put in the recommendation to restrict the pylon signs simply because we don't want to set the precedence so the example that Jesse used was the Freightliner sign for Truck Country. That was approved several years ago under the ETZ Vienna committee side of things for the branding of Freightliners under the Truck Country. But Truck Country did not ask for any exceptions for their on-building signs to make those any larger, right? So we're trying to kind of figure out a way to balance out a larger on-building sign so skid loaders, gets the visibility from the interstate, but also trying to figure out a way to not allow a 360 square foot pylon sign or 300 and we'll go with what Torn Country had, 327 square foot pylon sign, in addition to the larger sign that's going to be on the building as well. So finding a balance in between the two, I mean, we certainly can look at that, and I would be willing to concede not having the restriction on a pylon sign, but maybe we need to look at a restriction on the square footage of that sign or something of the sorts.
So what if we eliminated the sign on Cake? What if we got rid of the sign on the building there?
Well, I think if you got rid of the sign on the Cake Parkway side, I still don't think that that's going to be addressing the concern of having an excessive sign on the eastern side of the building and the potential for a pylon sign. You know, in the future, you could come back for special exception for a pylon sign that's just as large as Truck Country. So I think putting the sign on the western side of building, I mean, that's going to work for business location and traffic flow internally, right? So people know where the building is when they're driving through the Cake Parkway area. I think it's just, you know, really trying to do that protection of not having an excessive freestanding sign on the eastern side in addition to the larger on-building sign.
I'm just looking at it. It would help reduce the square footage on the property because I mean, I just don't.
I'm gonna call the order right now because this is the commissioner's portion of the meeting. And Brandy, could you maybe move down to the resolution so we can talk about that as far as where the commissioners stand, and then we can see further discussion as far as what needs a change in this resolution, because I think we've got, say, agreement on a number of things. It sounds like there's still some disagreement, but again, I want to get more of a take from the commissioners. There, Brandy, as far as I think the way the resolution was written was that staff was in agreement for, say, that the 300, so I got it, looks like it was 382 feet approximately on the east side. And then the Cake Parkway, I had written down as it was shown as 198 square feet, and it seems like we have from the applicant that they're willing to go to the 100 foot that was approximately allowed by our ordinance. And is that with the resolution? Is that the way the resolution is written, or can we modify the resolution to do that?
Well, the resolution is specifically written to allow for the larger sign on the eastern facade of the building only.
Okay. So far with those two signs, the resolution matches with what, say, staff and the applicant are saying.
Yes.
And so the disagreement right now is with the freestanding sign, and is that, or can you show us where that's mentioned? Okay. So I guess I would ask if there's any commissioners willing to make a motion, and then we can have continued discussion about, say, that point one that is in disagreement. Anybody willing to make the motion?
I'm not sure what to motion, Jim.
Okay. Brandy, can you scroll up a little bit? So I guess I'll start the motion. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2024-919 as written. Is there a second?
Colleen, a second.
Thank you, Colleen. So let's say continue with the discussion. So I think we encapsulated everything but a disagreement with the one and how we might want to modify that or not. Is there anybody wanting to start that discussion?
Okay, so this is Jean. Okay, so tell me again, then this resolution then will allow for the larger sign on the interstate side. So on the eastern side, the Cake Parkway sign is going, that portion of that sign in the building is going to fall into compliance with what our ordinance is. Okay. Tell me where the piece comes in with the pylon sign. Is that in this resolution too?
Yep, right there on
Yes.
that one.
And is that, I'm sorry, it's so little, I'm trying to read it here.
The resolution as written in the motion currently prohibits doing a freestanding sign.
Okay. Okay, so what this resolution does is we're addressing the sign on the west side of the building and the east side of the building only.
This resolution does not address the west side because they're going to comply with the ordinance standards. So this resolution would only be for the eastern facade facing the interstate.
Okay.
What we're looking at is, would you consider, based on Jesse and Monica's discussion, is relaxing the requirement for that I have in this resolution for the freestanding sign. An option could be, and I'll throw it out there, is that they could do a freestanding sign, but it cannot exceed what the current ordinance standards are. So there wouldn't be a future comeback for a 325 square foot sign. So there's still the option for a freestanding sign. There's a decent amount of square footage permitted for freestanding signs on the interstate. Currently, that could be an option that you guys could put together to relax this condition if you wanted to go that route.
Okay, because right now this resolution does not have that in there.
Correct. Right now, what the condition of this resolution is stating that they would deed restrict the property, prohibit any freestanding signs on the eastern side of the property.
Okay. All right.
I guess if I could add, as the maker of the motion, I just wanted to progress the meeting, and I'm willing to relax it myself. So if there any ideas, anybody else wanting to speak?
This is Mike. Brandy, what is the size of a highway facing pylon sign is allowed?
Pulling it up right now. Give me just a second.
Roughly 20 feet. Is that about it from what I'm
Alrighty.
looking?
So in the industrial district, so this is the freestanding sign ordinance. Can you guys see the screen, the PDF on the screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll try to make it a little bigger because I know it's hard when you guys are on Zoom. So currently with the freestanding sign, it shows here, you can see that if they're within a certain amount of feet from the interstate, they're allowed up to 300 square feet. That's just a standard of the village ordinance right now. So if they were to choose, say Jesse, 2 years down the road wants to put a freestanding sign up there on the eastern side of the property, he could put one up, that's up to 300 square feet, the maximum height would be 45 feet. So that's something that could be permitted. The truck country sign that was brought up, that's 326, a little over 326 square feet. So with the way the ordinance is currently written, they would be able to put up a freestanding sign 45 feet high, up to 300 square feet on that eastern side.
It's
If I can add,
excessive.
the truck country is 60 feet tall too. So
That is, yeah, that one is 60 feet tall. You're right, Jim.
go ahead, Mike.
So, and how big again is the sign on the west, I'm sorry, east elevation of the building?
Go.
Towards the interstate, I wrote down that is 382 square feet.
381.25.
So 300 is pretty big. 300
square feet for the freestanding sign is a relatively decent size. Like I said, the one at Truck Country is 326.
I guess I could support a pylon sign to try to ease the restriction. I don't know that I could support 300 square feet though.
Well, the 300 square feet is an ordinance standard.
But we could, if we allow a pylon sign in addition to the enlarged east side sign, we could limit the pylon size. Is that true?
Yes.
Is that something you want to recommend, Mike?
I'm just trying to get to some common ground. I think I would probably ask either Monica and I'm sorry, the other name isn't on the screen here. Jesse. Pylon sign wise, I'm assuming that would go toward the back of your property, closer to the highway.
Correct, yeah. And the opposite sides of Truck Country here, there's a big two clutters, so I think it'd be the far southeastern side, if there was one to be set up. I think you guys probably want.
Okay, so then I would ask Monica, what is a reasonable, you're not very far from the freeway at that point, or you're much closer. What would be a reasonable size if a pylon sign were to be installed at that location?
There is a ditchway there, so I'm gonna guess that we're gonna have to do it on the hill back further to where the cursor currently is on the screen. Is what I would guess that we have to do. I don't think we'd be able to put it in a ditchway.
Yeah, I have to apologize, Jesse. I have a real hard time hearing you.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's a little better, yes.
Oh, sorry. Wasn't sure which microphone was picking it up. Sorry about that. There's a ditchway that is currently right where the cursor is on the map screen. So the sign would have to be a little bit more to the west to be out of the ditchway there. So it would be a little further from the highway than what the cursor is. So a little bit more to the left, I would think.
Okay.
I would guess that it would have to be someplace in there. Maybe that would be out of the ditchway area.
Okay.
And then size wise here, Monica, what do you, you would have to, can you measure it from the other side of the road? Because they will have to see as well.
Well, billboards are 500 square feet typically, and you're seeing those from the highway. So those are 504 square feet.
The distance being, I think it was 400, what was it? 400, and then you have to go to the other side to be able to have the other car see. So you're probably sitting at around 450 to 500 feet. How big of a letter do you have to have, Monica, in order to be able to see it at 80 miles an hour and 520 feet away? You
How
know,
many
roughly
feet? How many feet do we have right there?
520 to the opposite lane.
So 500. So a 500-foot ladder, you need it to be 54 inches tall for maximum impact, readable distance. That's your ideal 54-inch tall ladder.
So Jesse, you were talking about more of a branding sign at that location?
Correct, because Skid Loaders Plus sells, you know, the business name. So the thought would be, if there ever was one, to put up, you know, Sandy, which, you know, consider it deer or cat, right? As that's a competition, but, you know, basically to be able to put up a sign that says cat, deer, bobcat, or something along those lines, so they understand what I sell at that location, seeing how it's not, you know, just explained out in the name of the business. If you get what I mean.
So how big would that be then?
I
your
can see
case?
us having probably 3 major lines, if not, you know, 4 major lines. Now the letters aren't as long, so I mean, you'd have Sandy, which is, you know, 5 letters, so it might be more of a vertical sign that has the main lines on there, but you'd have to have, you know, 3 to 4 brand names, you know, on the sign. So maybe like a vertical standing sign that's more vertical versus horizontal, like Freightliner. And then being able to have Sandy, Gale, so on there. And this year is really, you know, about the future, right? As of right this second, I'm only a Sandy dealer, but I see there being potential of certain brands that are not currently in the area for equipment that could definitely be added to our portfolio of sales. You know, and that's where, you know, having more options to add that is what I'm looking to do.
Jim, if I could just add, this is Alex. Our code as it pertains to the special sign exception does specify in the criteria that if you guys are struggling with, if the commissioner is struggling with sizing and how this relates to all this, that a highway visibility study for those types of things may be a helpful component too. Not to throw another wrinkle in it, but that is spelled out in the code as well.
Thank you, Alex. Mike, is there anything you want to recommend, or I have ideas if you...
I'm just trying to get to a point that I can have Jesse say, I can get by with 200, for example.
Okay. Monica, if we wanted to put, let's say, a total of 4 names, you know, nothing more than just simply the name brand of it, how big do you think that would have to be? So Sandy, not that large of a word. Gale is not that large of a word, or Manitude is another brand, right? How big those letters have to be? How big do you think we can make that work then?
Okay, so I'm just quickly trying to draw something. So a 10 foot by 20 foot is 200 square feet. And so that would give you 4 tenants. Each tenant would be 5 by 10. So you could have, you know what I mean, 4 tenants in a 10 by 20 sign. So 200 square feet gives you a 5 by 10 space for 4 tenants.
So that's
how big of a... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that would be my motion, 200.
Is that, out of curiosity, when you say 300 square feet, is that per side, or do you have to divide it where it's 150 and 150?
I've assumed that's one side, but I gotta ask that question too, to Brandy.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The 200 square foot, is it one side or 2?
One side. They can do 200 on each, you know.
On each side, okay.
I think you could get by with 200 square feet, Jesse, to make it work.
I would think so as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're gonna have to.
Thank you for the discussion. So Mike, I think they answered your question.
Correct.
Do you want to make a suggestion to change number 1?
I would suggest that the motion allow a pylon sign with a maximum size of 200 square feet
On the eastern facade?
on the eastern facade, on the east, pylon sign on the eastern side.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And as the maker of the motion, I accept that. Colleen, I think you were the second. Are you accepting of that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so that's accepted as a friendly amendment. Any continued discussion? I guess I'll ask Brandy, do you got that change to the motion or to the resolution?
Yeah, so what I have, Mike, was to allow a pylon sign with a maximum of 200 square feet sign face on the eastern side of the lot. So we're going to remove this deed restriction condition and add in what I just read out loud. And then I have a Simpson accepted the friendly and Little accepted the friendly.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. So that is the motion on the floor right now. Is there any continued discussion? Commissioners? Hearing none, I'm going to ask all those approving the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Phew, that was a long one.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
So next agenda item is 6.5, discussion and recommendation on an ordinance to repeal and recreate the village subdivision and development regulations, chapter 13, and to consolidate impact fee regulations within chapter 13. Brandy, I'm assuming?
Yes. Getting very thirsty, all this talking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that took a little bit longer than I expected. So I think we're gonna just kind of try to roll through this stuff really quickly, right? So we're bringing before you a couple of ordinance amendments. I'm gonna address the subdivision ordinance portion of it. And I hope that you guys were able to read through. What I might suggest for the sake of time is once we get into discussion, if there's a lot of comments or a lot more discussion that needs to happen, we don't have to make any types of decisions on this evening. It will be going to village board for a public hearing in December, but we can have discussion tonight. And if there seems to be lots of things to discuss through, we can always bring it back to the meeting in January as well. So I just want to let you guys know that, you know, there's no decision has to happen tonight if there's a lot of stuff that comes up. Okay. So what we're looking at right now is just doing some ordinance updates for the subdivision ordinance. And the red line, blue line version that was in your packet, I'm sorry for that confusion. There were having some issues with PDFing, and when we were internally commenting on stuff, it kept changing the colors. So that's why there's red and blue throughout the amended ordinance. But what we're looking for is we're doing some updates to the chapter, and then also taking the village's water impact fees and moving them from section 805 of the current ordinances to the subdivision ordinance, so that way all of our impact fees are in one place and we're not having to search through several ordinances to find out different impact fees there. Also, we are making the proposal to repeal and recreate the entire chapter just because there are so many red line changes throughout it that the ordinance, if we were to accept it change by change, it'd probably be 30 pages long for approval. So we're looking at just repealing and recreating. So here are just some of the items that are going to be addressed as far as changes through the subdivision ordinance. And this is all to assist us with development and our development process and everything that we have through that ordinance there. So we're looking to expand review over condo plats of private roads to reflect recent experience and practice recently required through PUDs or allowed by waivers. We're just opening up that to be able to, there's so many different condo developments and private roads and where are the easements, who owns what. We have the utilities underneath, so on and so forth. So it's just clarifying things like that. Identifying criteria for wetland delineations, realigning public improvement responsibilities and development agreement inclusions. These are all just different things that we've noticed as we've gone through development agreements and things like that. We just want to have some consistency in all the way that they're all written. Update the ETZ land division and other provisions that are reflected by the law. With that, this subdivision ordinance, if it's approved by the village, it does have to go before both ETZ committees for approval by those committees to be enacted in the ETZ jurisdiction as well. So that's just a side note for you. And then also just ensuring proper means of enforcing our conditions, right? Right now, we put conditions in ordinances or in resolutions and ordinances that are approved by the village board and commissions. And this just gives, we put those conditions in, but we don't have the meat of the subdivision ordinance support our conditions all the time. So that's part of trying to make sure that we're, you know, doing things and putting conditions in there that comply with what we actually have in our ordinances. And then reconciling planting strip requirements along state and federal highways with DOT setback requirements. This is just also just making sure that we're in line with a lot of the projects that we have, especially specifically along Highway 19, have planting strip requirements that are just put in place project by project. And so this is a way to kind of hone all of it in together under one ball of wax. And then updating just our stormwater management standards and ordinances to comply with the way that we operate, but also with state and local codes for that. So I know that was a whole lot I threw at you. Like I said, hopefully you're able to kind of review the proposed changes, and I'll be quiet now.
Thank you, Brandy. Guess I'll maybe, it's a bit of a question, but I'll just state something quick. Is I personally thought that was a real good change, and I had very limited comments. I've got just a handful of real quick ones. So I think, in my opinion, it seems like we should be able to get through that, but I don't want to speak for everybody. If there's anybody with some discussion, and again, I'm on the village board, so my comments could be addressed at that level too. So really, I want to open it up to all you for any discussions or concerns. Anybody?
This is Mike, and to be honest, I have not had a chance to get into this very deep tonight or for this meeting. So I personally would like to put off any decision on it until next month.
I think that's completely justifiable. It's a lot of reading, so. Anybody else want to state an opinion, or maybe, I guess we probably want a motion to postpone? I think actually if we don't even do any action, it goes automatically. But
Correct. Yeah.
okay, is anybody willing to make a motion, or just let it go to the next meeting?
I would motion that this, I don't know, how do I want to say this?
We don't even actually need to do a motion, Jim.
Okay,
We can just say that there was no action taken, and then we're able to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and that way you don't have to pull it off the table or do anything like that.
sounds good. And Brandy, for clarification, you said there is going to be a public hearing at the village board. So
Yep.
between now
On
and our
the
next meeting?
17th,
The 17th of December.
December.
Okay. And I'm showing our next meeting is going to be January 28th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I wonder though, Jim, if you wouldn't want to share your comments right now, so that way those can be addressed, like if there's things that come up, we can talk about it internally as staff. We can be prepared for the public hearing, that kind of thing.
I can do that, but I'll ask again if anybody else has comments. And well, Jean, you came off mute. Did you want to say anything?
I was just going to make the statement that I think that it's a wise thing to postpone it, just because it's a subject that we should really do our due diligence with, and really read through it all really, really well, because it's going to drive a whole bunch of development.
Yeah. Good point. Thank you, Jean. The couple things I can relay to you guys is what I was concerned. 13.03 33B is the one that I wrote down. That's in the definitions. I don't know, Brandon, if you can pull it up. 13.3 33. So close. Okay, so under B, it's definition of what's usable for parks, for active recreational area. And what I did not think necessary is striking out, I think it's striking out 4 and making it 2%. And I can see 2% is, say, useful maybe for like a field, but I think that's pretty limiting for active recreation. I have everything graded at 2%, and also knowing how difficult it can be to grade something at 2%, I thought leaving the 4% would be more appropriate.
So leaving it as 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Personally, I think it should be even more than that, but I'm okay with leaving it as 4 because that's what was there. And along the same lines, in that actually the same sentence, it talks about 12% for passive recreation. I think that's rather limiting too, knowing that, say, 25% is a mowable slope, that we're really rather restricting our passive recreation, which to me, passive is just more or less looking at it. So I would recommend increasing that, but
just to comment on both of those, Jim, I think the discussion with the public services team was to set those a little bit tighter And then the provision to allow approval by Director of Public Services beyond those would be at a discretion. And that way, so when, say there's a field being proposed, an active use being proposed that really needs to be at a certain tighter constraint, where we have the wherewithal to go to that. Whereas if it's at a higher baseline, and the use itself needs to be at a flatter plane, there's not really a recourse to that, to go tighter than that. But that's a good catch too.
Yeah, good points. And sort of along the same lines that you bring up, Alex, the D that's right below there, it says that it has at least 15% of the perimeter adjacent to the public street. And I agree that is a good goal, but I can think of some parks that don't have that, where they just mainly have maybe trail connections to a rather large park. So I thought it'd be prudent to put the same, unless otherwise approved by the Director of Public Services, on that D also.
Makes sense.
And the last comment I had, I would just show that it was page 1330, and namely was about naming off roadway widths on different, I think, types of roads.
I'm sorry, Jim, what?
I showed it as page 13-30. So that's just what was at the bottom.
Is that the table?
Yeah, it's a little table. And I didn't have time to look into it myself to state my opinions, but I was just going to ask if somebody could look at that particularly, or if that has been looked at already. I think that would be a good time to change that if we want to. So, and those were the, say, 4 things I wanted to bring up. That was relatively quick. Yeah, see, I'm just wondering, say, like the 32-foot for a minor street, if that maybe could be less. Again, I don't have an opinion right now. I just want somebody to look at that as far as what's been being approved for us. So those are my comments. I think I want to look at the stormwater part of it too more myself. So I'm in favor of letting this say continue to the next meetings too. Any other comments from commissioners, or we'll move on to item 6.6, which is a public hearing on an ordinance amendment, Chapter 15 zoning code pertaining to site and building plan submittal and review procedures. This again is a public hearing, and I'm going to open the public hearing at 8:02. I guess, Brandy, do you want to have a bit of discussion and we'll close the public hearing?
I think Alex was going to take this one.
Alex, okay.
Just so I don't have to keep talking.
Yeah, so I guess just at a high level, Mark's memo kind of lays out quite a bit of the thought here. And I think we discussed this at the last meeting in terms of kind of a distinction between major site plans and minor site plans and the staff review process. A lot of that is what drove some of these changes. I believe this is the first time that we've had a code that really makes that delineation as clearly as this does between major and minor site plans. So definitely would be interested to get some feedback on how that looked to you all. Just again, at a high level, this is all, especially with the review timeframes, which Brandy has on screen here. This is all, the intention here is to just give staff a little bit more time and our consultants a little bit more time to digest things so that we can get all the information that we need in a reasonable time frame to get to you all to give what we hope to have as more dialed in site plans and more dialed in reviews, so that we're having less conditions of approval and have a more complete package coming out of these meetings, so that it also helps us as staff when we're tracking these projects afterwards, to follow up, did they meet all the conditions and those types of things. So most of the items contained in this revision are kind of with that in mind. So if there's any questions, I guess I'd be happy to kind of answer any of that or talk through that. But again, Mark put together a pretty nice memo there. So
Thank you, Alex. And with that, and I'm gonna check, but I'm assuming there's nobody outside of our commission online, so I'm gonna close the public hearing at 8:05 and open up the discussion and recommendations on the ordinance amending Chapter 15, the zoning code pertaining to site and building plan submittal and review procedures. So if anybody wants to discuss this, I'd say please bring it up. I guess I would state myself personally, I feel like we might be in a situation as far as like similar to 6.5 that we could move it to the next meeting, but do want to have the discussion if anybody wants to at this point.
and I'll just say, so we certainly could do that, Jim, especially if there's, major concerns or things that we really kind of need a little bit more discussion on. I personally, if that is the case, then we're gonna need as a staff to adjust some things because our review timelines that we're taking these projects in on right now are being communicated to the development community with these new timeframes in place. So we just want to make sure that if we kick this out to January, that we're making some adjustments so that we're not in contradiction to what our code will be.
Okay. And can you clarify too, as far as what are the next steps for this? Because this, I'm assuming, will go to the village board, is that correct?
That's correct. Yep. Mm-hmm. So we're holding the public hearing here, and then if there was a potential action on this, it would be a recommendation to the village board.
Okay. Any discussions, or Brandy, if you're in control of the screen, could you bring up the recommendation?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Jean.
So Alex, if you said, what kind of, tell me, is that problematic then if we also postpone this? I mean, for working with any future of the developers that you have or projects going on now, how will that impact?
I would say it's not necessarily terribly problematic. It just means that I need to go back and re-communicate what the actual ordinance-based development review timelines are to projects that are coming in between now and the time that this eventually or potentially does not get approved.
I was just wondering how this plays out for you. What kind of problems it causes?
We can manage it either way. I think this is definitely something that we want to have right for the long term. It just would be some shifting on my side. So I guess the only reason I mentioned that is if this feels reasonably comfortable and there's one or two little things, great. If it needs to be, if there's not a degree of comfort, then that's fine. We'll adjust on our side.
As I read through it, I like the increased timelines that are given for the review process because I think that that's key in getting a good plan. Yep. And that portion of it, I really like to see that.
Sure. Yeah, I guess where if I could recommend an area of focus for you all, it would be on the distinction between major and minor site plans and how all that language looks. So if we haven't had as a commission the time to really dig into that, then I would be also inclined to kick it out a little bit here because I do think those are important distinctions.
Okay, any opinions, discussions on that?
This is Colleen. I'll just say that generally I am comfortable with it. I mean, I'm assuming that everybody who's involved in the actions have put their heads together and come up with this is the better and best way to go about this. So I would have no problem actually making a motion to recommend to the village board that this be approved.
Is that a motion then?
Yes, sir, it's a motion.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Jean.
From a process standpoint, if I could, Jim, to give a sense of what goes into some of these types of things, when we're looking at ordinance amendments, as a staff, we're all reviewing it here internally, and that includes myself, Brandy, Administrator Chang, Director of Public Services, their team, Judd and Greg look at these things. And then we also kick it out to obviously our consulting team. The engineers at Veerbicker looks at this, Al from the legal side looks at this, and then Mark as well. So we try to get as many eyes on it as we can. But you know, it's always helpful to have you guys review it too.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comments? I guess I, for one, don't feel like I've given this section enough review. I did review the previous one, but this one I have not read through. And I'll say the truth is I do have a number of concerns looking at it from the point of view of when I worked for developers, and even extending the time can be problematic for developers. So I want to look at it in a lot more of a critical viewpoint, but that's just my opinion, and we've got a motion on the floor. So
this is Jean. I did second for purposes of discussion. If the rest of the commissioners would like more time to evaluate that, I am comfortable with that also.
This is Mike, and I would like more time.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. So right now we're standing with a motion on the floor that we're gonna take a vote on unless somebody backs out of the motion.
So we have that option that we can back out of the motion if
I
we're going
believe
to table it.
Yeah.
And I guess I would say if the majority of folks here feel that that's probably the direction, I think I would maybe advocate for rescinding the motion.
Thank you
I
for
think
the
clearly that is the feeling of the majority, so I will rescind the motion.
Thank you, Colleen. And I believe that happens is because the motioner rescinded it, that Jean, you don't have to second or anything.
Okay.
And I will ask one more time that if there is a motion, but without a motion, I believe this will just pass to the next meeting again. Thank you all for that discussion. I guess in the meantime, I guess for 6.7 and 6.5, I'll just state more or less for staff, if there's comments, I guess you'd probably want to get those earlier than later, and maybe send your comments to staff to think about before we get to our next meeting.
Yeah, if you guys have comments or whatever, if you want to send them to me, and then I will send them on to our team, our internal team here to share before we bring it back in January. That would be helpful.
Yep. Thank you, guys. The chair's report. Looking back at our meetings, November 19th, we talked about operation budget and had a rather lengthy discussion about fluoride and the drinking water, sewer extension costs, and establishing stormwater utility charges. And Alex, you had something about a grant for Vibrant Spaces, a program there. So looking forward to finding out more about that. And Alex, again, on the committee of the whole, we talked about affordable housing extension of tax increment district number 3. So again, exciting happenings that will be impactful to the village. You want to elaborate at all, Alex, or leave it at that?
Sure. I could give a brief synopsis. I know we're kind of lengthy here. So the state statute allows you to extend TIF districts an extra year and use that property taxes generate to facilitate affordable housing development and housing development in general within the community. So we discussed at committee of the whole some different options for a program. A lot of the discussion revolved around creating some funds for home improvements, particularly for aging in place, seniors, those types of things, but also for different levels of workforce affordability. So that I'll keep moving for the next months. And, yeah, it is exciting.
Thank you, Alex. And on our December 3rd village board meeting, we reviewed some fees for dog licenses, wrote off some personal property taxes that were due to us. The village board sent a letter of support for the interstate enumeration, which is the large project between, say, Madison and Wisconsin Dells. And I'll say, outside of my village board duties, I do know that the transportation planning, or TPC, whatever that stands for, is recommending enumeration to the legislature. So that happened today. So that's great news for us. Back to the village board, there's talking about deer management plan in utilizing the USDA for some of the management or herd control. There was land on Dental Road that was attached to the village. And then we also have stormwater informational education outreach coordination. We signed in with a resolution to partially fund that with a number of other communities. And that's everything that I had on our agendas. So 7.2 staff report, anybody? Site plan approvals, CSM's approvals.
No.
Development process and enforcement suggestions, anybody? So thank you all very much. Our next meeting is January 28th. I guess I'll ask Brandy, is that probably going to hold, or Alex, or do you see a special meeting in our future in January?
No, we don't have anything for special meeting. The deadlines would have passed already, so.
Okay. Thank you all. So I'll be seeking a motion for adjournment.
Made.
Thank you, Mike. I will second that. And ask everybody in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 7-0. We are adjourned at 8:18. Thank you all for hanging in there in a long meeting, but